after the All-Star break in late July. Orioles in New York and the Bronx taking on the New York Yankees. I'm going to invite one of my defending champions back onto the program. He covered the Mets last year, went to the World Series, had a little extended work play there. Jared Diamond covers the Yankees now for the Wall Street Journal, but he's with the Mets this week, strangely enough, out in Chicago. Must be something about a summer week in Chicago, right, Jared Diamond?
Oh, it's a beautiful week. And yeah, look, Mets-Cubs, it's exciting. It's the site of the Mets clinching the pennant last year, so we have a little brief exchange program going on for a couple days here.
What's it like to go from, the trading thing going on with the Yankees to the Mets trying to claw their way into this thing? Different kind of year for the Mets, too. I mean, they had higher expectations. I think you had higher expectations for the Yankees moving beats.
Yeah, I would say so. It's funny. I was with the Mets. I show up in the clubhouse on Monday, and it took literally about 20 minutes before I had absolutely no idea what was going on because the Mets have no center fielder right now, and Yoenis Cespedes can't play center, and they're going to use Michael Conforto in center field. And we go into the manager's office, and I swear I've been in this room for 20 minutes. I'm back with the Mets for 20 minutes, and we go through this whole press conference, and afterwards I still have absolutely no idea what's going on. And I think, well, yeah, these are the Mets. I'm back.
Well, there you go. Keeping you on your toes is part of the beat. I think the Yankees are keeping guys like you on your toes all week long, checking your text and all that good stuff. I mean, here comes the trading deadline, and I've gotten deep into this with the gloves on and the gloves off about what they could do, what they should do, what they might do. I just know if the thought is they're going to piss off their own fan base, I think of all the franchises in North America that could owe their fans a mulligan for 1 year or to wave the white flag. I don't understand what the reticence is at the top level of the Yankees, and especially you can speak to this because you cover the Mets. I don't know that all those businesses are running over and giving their money to Citi Field next year. Most of those contracts for the really big money stuff, they're 10-year deals anyway, or 20-year deals in a lot of cases. So I don't know that it's a financial issue as much as it's sort of like ego or something. Let Cashman deal these guys off. They can't win, right?
Yeah, look, I think the Yankees know that. Even the top-level people, I think eventually they know. They know that ultimately they're going to have to start trading off pieces. But look, it's only, it's still not August 1st. We still have another, 10 days or so, a little more than a week, 2 weeks before the trade deadline. So as far as the Yankees are concerned, they're going to just hold out as much hope as they can that they go on a extended winning streak, that maybe they win 6 out of 7 against Baltimore and San Francisco. Is it likely? No, it's not likely, but they're going to hold out hope that they do. And if they don't, which they almost certainly won't, then I think next week we're going to really see them starting to hunker down, start trading people. I don't think they're worried about guys like Aroldis Chapman or Carlos Beltran losing their value because they're being traded 6 games later than they would have been. I don't think that's a concern of theirs. So ultimately, I do think these trades will happen. It just might wait until the last possible minute just in case they decide to go on a run.
You can follow Jared Diamond out on Twitter at Jared Diamond. That's Jared. And Diamond, just like where the games are played. And he watches, covering the Yankees for the Wall Street Journal, as well as MLB. Was out at the All-Star game last week as well. And we'll get to all of that. But what's your prescription on this, right? I mean, you're kind of new to the beat. Everybody expected the Yankees to fall off a cliff last year, especially with all the A-Rod nonsense going on down in spring training. They wound up being very competitive last year and fading a bit at the end, but being a playoff team. But, 3 hours of October baseball, not. I don't think that's what the Yankees are looking for. I mean, how big would the sell-off be in your perfect world?
Look, I think there's definitely start with Carlos Beltran or Aroldis Chapman. That's the easy one. There's no reason why those guys shouldn't be traded. They're both free agents, especially considering that Aroldis Chapman has made it very clear publicly that he would very, very much like to come back to the Yankees when he hits free agency, even if they do trade him. So really, in a perfect world, you could consider trading this guy, getting some prospects, and maybe even getting him back as a free agent. That's really having your cake and eating it too, right? That's the dream scenario. In the case of Carlos Beltran, free agent to be, I'm sure there's an American League team that would love to have him with how well he's played. He's been the Yankees' best player. He was an all-star. Also, he's just the kind of guy that he deserves, in my mind, an opportunity to win a World Series with the kind of career that he's had. He's running toward the end of his career now at age 39. After that, we'll see. Andrew Miller's the name that you hear a lot. I don't think the Yankees are really looking to move him. He's still under contract for 2 years. They view him as really their closer of the next 2 years, if not the future. So I don't think they're going to move him, but they'll listen to offers. Really, I don't think there's much of anybody that's necessarily, quote-unquote, untouchable at this point. It's just a matter of which one of these guys the teams actually want.
Well, and I think, the biggest thing with Cashman is he's never done this, right? I mean, we don't even know what kind of a trader he is, right? Through the Orioles, we've had all these different people run the team. Most every Orioles GM has had some sort of sell-off. I mean, even going back to, Roland Heeman, for crying out loud. But, I mean, Cashman's been running the place for 20 years and has never been able to go score his Adam Jones, Chris Tillman by fleecing someone in an Eric Bedard deal, right? I mean, this would be his first opportunity to do that. There's a great unknown there, and obviously when you deal like this, the judgment's 3 years out on it, right? We won't know whether it would be a successful sell-off until 19, right?
Right, where it's very true. Look, Brian Cashman probably wanted to trade Robinson Cano, wasn't given that opportunity by ownership. He may have wanted to trade David Robertson, for all we know, wasn't given that opportunity by ownership. So it's not necessarily for a lack of trying that Brian Cashman hasn't been able to sell. It's just very clear. He said this publicly many times that any sort of sale has to get approval from the boys upstairs, and so far we have not seen them shown the willingness to do it. Now, I think that's going to change. But yes, absolutely. Any trade that's made, you're not going to be able to judge it right now. We're going to have to wait a couple of years to see. The good news is for the Yankees, especially in the case with Aroldis Chapman, is that there's no doubt there's going to be a bidding war for him. Because you look around the league right now and how many really good contending teams are looking for a closer or a great relief pitcher right now.
And they feel like that's the difference between them winning or losing, period, right?
Yes. Texas, Chicago, Washington. I just named 3 teams without even thinking that are desperate for someone like Aroldis Chapman. Maybe the Yankees could get them in a bidding war. They wait a little while longer. A couple of these teams blow a couple saves. That's only good for the Yankees, right? One of these teams get really desperate, and all of a sudden the Cubs are saying, okay, we'll give you Kyle Schwarber. The Rangers say, okay, we'll give you Joey Gallo, which is really what the Yankees want ultimately.
We are chatting with Jared Diamond. He covers all things Yankees, but he's with the Mets this week, strangely enough, for the Wall Street Journal. And the Orioles, of course, in New York taking on the Yankees. And, I understand you skipping a few days with the Birds, but I know you've been watching this thing as closely as anybody. This is an interesting race all the way around, and I guess for anyone in the Yankees world that would believe they're still in it, they would still be in it because these 3 teams have been sort of stop-start. The Orioles have been the best of them, but clearly the Red Sox have been the most all-in here thus far in improving their team before we get to this deadline where they're giving away half their farm system. And more than that, the Orioles don't have much to give away. They are not going to be the player for the big-time pitcher that's available. I don't even know if they could pry Nova away from the Yankees, for a rental at this point, or whether they would want to. The Orioles starting pitching really is a challenge for them right now.
Yeah, it is. But look, they have the least work to do of these 3 teams. Boston, I think they're aggressive. I think they sort of see their holes getting larger, and they're worried about falling too far behind. Toronto, for as well as they've played at times, has yet to go on that run that I think that a lot of us thought they were going to have, and they still might have. Hasn't happened yet. Baltimore's really been in control of this division now for a while. Now it's close. It's been close, and it's going to probably remain close. But I don't think they need to do necessarily as much as maybe the Red Sox because of how good their bullpen has been. And, of course, the lineup, which we don't even need to talk about, it's incredible. You could get by with, so-so starting pitching when you talk about a bullpen with the one they have and the offense that they have. And that's what's going on right now.
Well, a lot of teams have built this bullpen thing out, and I think if you look at the Yankees game on Monday night, the back end of the bullpen there, 7, 8, and 9, at least before they give Chapman away next week, that was a great prescription for them to remedy 5-inning starters who are a bunch of collection of 4s and 5s to some degree. And I mean, the Orioles have tried everything they have, including sending Dylan Bundy out there for 50 or 60 pitches and getting winded and worried about him as well. The pitchers that get dealt during this trading deadline, it's going to be under great scrutiny, and more than that, there's not a lot of it, and there's not a Cole Hamels out there, at least that I can see, that's going to change hands here in the next 2 weeks.
No, I don't know how many really big names are really out there. I know we're still a little bit away, but I feel like by now you start hearing a little bit more typically about potential really big splashes, and that's because there just aren't a lot of good free agents. Let's face it. The one big free agent that we all saw going into this offseason was Steven Strasburg, and he made sure that was not going to be the case very early, signing that extension with Washington that no one saw coming. So the free agent class is fairly weak, and as a result, not a lot of rentals that are going to be for sale, which that might be good for for the Orioles, I should say, because that might mean that Boston and Toronto, they don't have much room to grow. There just might not be the guys out there for them to get much better. That's ultimately good for Baltimore.
Jared, I'm going to give you $1 right now. Put it on a team. Go ahead. Who wins the East?
Oh, the Orioles.
Really?
I've been high on the Orioles from the beginning. I like them. I just don't trust Boston. I just do not trust Boston. I love Toronto, and they were my pick going into the season. I still think Toronto's a playoff team. But if one of these teams is going to fade, I think the Red Sox are that team. David Price has just been a disappointment, let's face it, with the money that they paid him. They've gotten a lot of success out of Stephen Wright, the knuckleball pitcher, but he's started to struggle of late as well. I just don't feel good about what I've seen out of the Red Sox. Of course, look, we all know things change very quickly. I just love the bullpen of the Orioles and the lineup of the Orioles, and I think that compensates for a lot of other holes.
It really is amazing. These teams spending all these money on players, whether it's Teixeira and A-Rod, who stink, and McCann and Ellsbury, who mostly stink. You go to the Red Sox, and they've got the Pando. Who the hell knows where he's sunning himself and eating donuts right now under some tree? I have no idea. Ramirez. He's not there. And then the Orioles with Gallardo and with Jimenez, who were brought in to be the front of the line guys, and they can't even figure out a place to put him in the rotation without hiding him. There's just so much wasted money amongst these teams as well, right?
That's what happens. The teams that win seem to be the ones these days that have homegrown players, young players, ones they develop themselves. A lot of times the best players aren't the most expensive players. I think we've certainly seen that now for quite a while. So yeah, look, the Orioles made some investments that haven't worked out. They've also made some that have, and they've gotten some great production out of some cheaper players. Like Manny Machado is one of the best 5 players in the major leagues probably, and he's making pretty much nothing. So just enjoy that while you can, because there's going to be a huge payday in his future.
Well, and maybe that brings me to the next point. Jared Diamond joining us here from the Wall Street Journal, covering all things Yankees with the Mets this week. Love having him on. You say that, about the Yankees and where money is, and they used to just buy what they wanted, right? That was the Yankee way. At what point is that going to happen again, and what Machado and Harper might be out there? All these teams have money now. If the Orioles want to give Manny Machado a $300 million deal, they can. 10 years ago, they probably couldn't. Financially, most of the teams couldn't compete with the Yankees. What is the upside for the Yankees at this point? What's the great hope of them becoming maybe not what they once were, which was better than everybody every year all the time because they bought the best players? I don't know that that's going to be a prescription for them in 18 or 19 or 20 to get off their feet, which is maybe even more of a reason to try to go raid other people's farm systems right now.
Well, they're going to go all in 2018. There's no question. That's what they're doing. It's not really a secret. They're saving up their money for Bryce Harper. This isn't something that they're hiding. Everyone knows what they're doing. They're trying to save their money now, get these contracts off the books, and give Bryce Harper $500 million or whatever he's going to cost and get him to New York. Will that happen? We'll see. Definitely there's a chance. I would not be surprised if the Yankees offer more than anybody else. At that point, they'll have a lot of money to spend. But your general point is 100% right, which is it's a lot harder to, quote-unquote, buy a championship. I don't really like that phrase. I don't believe that's what the Yankees did in their heyday either. I don't really like saying that. But that idea of just throwing money at free agents to try to build your team, yeah, with revenue sharing and the new financial structure, the league has designed itself to make it more difficult for teams like the Yankees to do that. And that's part of why the Yankees have struggled.
But I would say this. You must admit, and I'm not doing the bleeding heart thing here, but I've been doing sports radio for 25 years and watching all this. I tip my cap to Pettit and to, Jeter, Posada, the whole thing. I witnessed all that. I was at those World Series games. But in any other market, bro, other than maybe like the Dodgers, those cats would have been broken up, right? Maybe the Orioles or the Blue Jays in the early 90s had the kind of revenue to keep those kind of guys together. one of the things that's so amazing about them, not just that they could keep those guys, but that then they could go out and import Mike Messina, or go out and buy Roger Clemens, or go out and buy Jimmy Key, or go out and buy David Cohn, or Prince Fielder, or Wade Boggs, or any number of other guys at that point. Other organizations just did not have that ability, and they wouldn't have had the ability to keep the original guys. Those guys were Kansas City Royals, as Johnny Damon and and Beltran and other guys were. They just go other places.
Yeah, you're probably right, but the reality is the Yankees won with those guys early, and that helps. It's very hard to say for certain. Now, you're probably right, but it's very hard to say for certain how, what it would be like if they were on the Orioles, and with the Orioles, they won 3 World Series before they were free agents, right? That does change a lot when you've won championships and you feel like you continue to win championships. Money is obviously the most important factor, but Carlos Beltran, Johnny Damon were on terrible Royals teams.
Absolutely.
Jeter, Pett, and Bernie won right away.
And they also won for a team that could pay them.
It's a perfect combination.
But in the new world, the Yankees are now waiting for the modern day version of that. Somebody that Tampa can't afford, right? But there's less of that because the Orioles have the money to sign Machado. 15 years ago, they didn't have the money to give Messina. I've written books about this stuff. The old man was losing $20-25 million a year at that time. $3 million more a year for Messina meant a lot. In the modern era, I don't know. This waiting around to sign, the Nationals can afford Harper, right? It's really about whether he decides to stay there or not. And I guess that's something that 3 years from now we'll be arguing about, and it'll be a lot of fun because it will be interesting to see if all that money really nets them anything more than someone else's Albert Pujols, right?
Yeah, well, we'll see. It is going to be very interesting. Things have definitely changed. We're also seeing a lot more young players signing pre-arbitration extensions with buyout, a few years of free agency, which makes their free agent contract a little less worthwhile, or at least a little less enticing to want to give them the big contract because they're a little bit older. So we're going to see a lot of interesting things here in the next few years. It just might be a while for the Yankees. They might have a year or two here of just treading water.
All right, so get in the prediction machine. What's really going to happen here? 2 weeks from now, how many of these guys are going to be gone in your mind?
I'd be surprised if it's anyone more than Chapman and Beltran.
Really?
I think those two probably go. Beyond that, I don't see it. I don't think anyone else is going to pony up with the can't not do it offer for somebody like Andrew Miller. I just don't think anyone's going to give the Yankees the player they want, so they're going to keep Miller, Beltran, Chapman, go. That's my guess.
All right, man. Well, hey, enjoy yourself in Chicago out there, man. See the tall buildings, walk the Miracle Mile. Enjoy. It's nuts out there, right? They think they're winning the World Series, right?
They've been struggling a little lately, but they're off to a great start. They had a great first half, so this could be the year. We'll see. Well,
that's what they're saying on the north side. Jared, great having you on, man. Always a pleasure to catch up. Appreciate the time.
Thanks a lot.
You got it. Jared Diamond of Wall Street Journal. He covers the Yankees, but he's running around with the Mets this week, as he did last year on their World Series run. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at Jared Diamond. That's Jared Diamond, just like the one on my wife's finger. How about that? Or maybe just like the one we watch baseball on. You can find me, Nasty, at WNST.net. You can also find me in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault anytime, anywhere, on your mobile device. Listen when you want, where you want, your iPod, your iPad. It's just there. It's the internet, man. It's you call it, you say it, we play it. It's all brought to you by Buy a Toyota and the buyatoyota.com audio vault. A morning newspaper, 7 a.m. and it's your email inbox each and every morning. It's powered up by our friends at Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life there. And last but never least, if there's any breaking news at all, you'll get it first on the WNST Tech Service. Many, many followers there. It is our best service. We've been doing it for 10 years. If there's breaking news, within moments, you will find out first because that's the way we do it. It's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard, and that's free. Dennis will be here on Thursday from 3 until 5. Driving you home, I'm Nestor. Nasty at WNST.net. Reaches me anytime, anywhere. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat and Instagram, and Facebook Live and WNSTV on YouTube. We are WNST.net AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.